Shut up and sit down.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, but especially good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ChampCar iRacing Series 2020. Getting very deep into the year and therefore very deep into the calendar now. It's round 14 and our third of 3 trips this year to VIR. Raced at VIR South. We raced the endurance round at the VIR full course. Now it's time for VIR North. Use the traditional main pit lane. Then it cuts across through the Patriot Circuit in the infield, bringing the racers back towards the famous roller coaster here at VIR. And of course, the vehicle of choice this round is the Pontiac Solstice. Pretty good handling, a nice even weight distribution, but the power and maybe the gearbox leaves a little to be desired in this car. Nonetheless, it means it slipstreams very close and the racing amongst equal drivers can be very close. As always for our normal rounds, a 60-minute race ahead of us. Fixed setup, a pit stop going to be required from our drivers because of fuel. So what does that mean for the strategies across today's race? We wait and find out. A lot of it might depend as well on if tyre wear and tyre life factors into this. So I'm David Haynes, our producer, as always, Michael Derby and Devin Peters alongside me. Devin, qualifying just wrapping up at the moment.
Yeah, and it's a really tight battle out there. It looks like Justin Hall's currently leading the field with a 1:44.3, but he's closely followed by David Marcus and Alex Albert, who's currently leading the points. And it promises to be an exciting race if we've got the top 4 all in the same zip code for lap time here. So it's going to be very close, I would expect.
Indeed. Talk about our top 10 as they are at the moment. Justin Hall, smidge ahead of his fellow Floridian, David Marcus. Alex Albert, championship leader, defending champion. Very, very close to wrapping up another title potentially. He's currently third in qualifying. Sean Saputra, best of a couple of drivers I think we have from Love Racing. Or is it just Sean? Not sure. Simon Foweather currently 5th. David Martin 6th. Max Lupfer in 7th. Andrew Kosick 8th. Aaron Philp 9th. And David Palermo 10th. I think it's about time we make sure we take a good look at this circuit and what separates it from the sort of VIR full course. We still get the first corner, we still get NASCAR and left hook and the lower S's, and we, before getting to the climbing S's, make the right-hand turn into another and different climbing turn. It goes uphill and then weaves back and forth a little bit and spits out right into the roller coaster.
Yeah, lots of flat-out time through pretty much every section of this track. So these cars being as draft-dependent as they are ought to really be able to benefit from it. So positioning is going to be key for these drivers as they navigate their way around here. Heading now down roller coaster and into hog pen, the penultimate corner on the track, depending on how you look at it. Either way, jumping the tires over the inside curve and heading to the start-finish line. And Alex Albert has been trying to set a lap here. We'll see if he's able to. Got a whole pack of guys coming.
Qualifying's not all smooth sailing for everyone, as you've seen. Oh, with more problems for the 888 there. But Alex Albert is going to go to the top of the timing, just finding an extra 1/10 of a second there, just enough, well, a little bit more than that to put him on pole position.
Yeah, and he and Justin are both pushing hard right there, and you can kind of tell. Justin Hall put in a 44.4 last time by, and Alex Albert managed to find a little bit more. I think he's getting them on the inside of hog pen there. He's really being aggressive with those inside curbs.
Let's put Justin Hall back into second, put David Marcus back into third. Justin's going to start another flying lap. And I tell you what, it's going to get quite dark by the end of this race. I'm telling you that because you can see long shadows, sun low in the sky right now at the end of qualifying already. Headlights are decent enough on a Pontiac Solstice though, so it should not be any troubles.
Yeah, the iRacing guys definitely got out the polishing kits for the headlights before this all got going, so should be no problem seeing in the dark, depending on how dark we get, because there are no fixed lights around this track, so you are only going off the headlights if we do get into a true nighttime kind of scenario.
Yeah, when it gets dark around here, it gets dark. It gets country dark as well.
Yeah.
Out here near the border with North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a familiar track for a lot of these guys. I know Alex Albert spent a lot of time racing out here, and I want to say the Love guys are no strangers either. Having done the 24 a couple times as well, I believe.
Oh, I had to let that one slide in that case. But who have we got? Club Virginia's got Alex Albert, got David Martin in the number 10 car, currently 7th. Who else looks local? A couple from Club Ohio, like Neil Hancock. Like we've got Andrew and Rachel Cosick once again.
Mm-hmm.
Floridians and Michiganers a little further away, but I think that's one of the big benefits that VIR's got for it location-wise is just sort of finds itself a little bit between, everywhere on the East Coast there. Not so far from New Yorkers, people from Virginia, etc. Not far from your North Carolinas, your South Carolinas.
Yeah, and you and I can vouch for how nice this track is. I mean, beautiful facilities off and on the track, and great fun to drive around. Scary at times, edge of your seat kind of driving, but really fun. And when you put in a fast lap, you really feel like you accomplished something out here.
Yeah, indeed. I'm seeing Scott Grinnell with Ethan Oring on track together. Let's see if someone picks up a draft off someone else there, the 55 and the 21. No time yet for the young Pennsylvanian Ethan Oring.
And he was a late joiner, so we'll see if he is able to put one in. This is a heck of a track to learn on the fly.
Indeed, it is. Quite a few unsighted corners as well, especially in this segment that forms the North Course and cuts across the middle of the track. A little bit unsighted in that right-hander coming up the hill. There's some slightly unsighted S's that you must negotiate that Scott Grinnell hasn't negotiated very well on cold tyres. I've heard that the rear is a little bit skatey when they're cold, so... Yeah.
And Andrew Costa goes around too. Got Cossack spinning on the infield there too. It is a tricky layout. You're right, especially in this inside section. There's a lot of, basically driving just, if I was in the real car, I'd be trying to stretch my neck and see over the hood of the car on the way up the hill here. So can't do all that in iRacing unless you got a nice VIR setup. So some of these guys will be struggling as they head through that section of the track, that cut through.
Yeah, precisely. So closing minutes of qualifying now, just a minute 20 left. So we highlight a couple more drivers who are really pushing the limits to improve their time, not always with success. Not always with success, it must be said. So anyone crossing the line now is going to finish their lap, but it's too late to leave the pit lane and make another attempt.
Justin Hall is going to be coming to the line here shortly, around 44.399 last time by. Might have used up everything that was in those tires, putting a lot of heat in them. And sure enough, it looks like he has. He pulls into the pits and aborts that lap. So I'm not going to see a change from him. See if anyone else is out there on track.
David Marcus definitely still is. He's going to come across the line momentarily. See what that lap does for him. Might have been an out lap, or there might have been an issue with it. So he's starting a lap now, and it's going to be his final opportunity, of course, with just 20 seconds left for the session before the checkered flag waves.
And Putra was on a bit of a flyer there, looking pretty good, but ran wide at roller coaster. Easy enough to do when you're trying to get that turn in right. So he'll be coming across the line here. It looks like he might even be short. Yeah, he won't make it to the line in time to start a lap. So I think David Marcus is going to be our last man with a chance on track to qualify.
One of the odd things about this layout is roller coaster's identical, but you approach it with a lot less speed than if you were running the full course. It's kind of odd, and at a slightly different angle as well. But then the track is the same from there to the finish line. Sort of, you're used to approaching it at great gusto. And David Marcus has taken the north cut through with great gusto, and you'll see that went a little bit wide, touched a tiny bit of the grass there.
And with that's wrapped up qualifying. He was the last one on track.
Simon Foweather's still going, and so is Ethan Oring. Most important, actually, for Oring as well, because there's no qualifying time yet for him. Oh, okay.
Oh, got the blinks.
Must be that Amish internet again.
Mm-hmm.
Quite sure what Alex Albert's doing at slow speed right now, cooling the tires off, some form of parade lap, or just...
Knowing Alex, he'd be doing a Polish victory lap if he was allowed. Oh, and Ethan Oring has found out about roller coaster the hard way. Well, here's hoping he can figure it out for the race.
Yeah, short race if he doesn't, because it is 60 minutes and that's going to be quite a few laps. So let's look at the qualifying order now that it is all locked in for round 14. The front row is going to be Alex Albert and Justin Hall. Good friends on the front row. They've been a couple of rounds this season. David Marcus and Sean Saputra behind them. Then Max Lupfer and David Martin. That's going to be Simon Foweather and Andrew Kosick for row 4. Got Aaron Thorpe and David Palermo rounding out the top 10. Neil Hancock and Scott Grinnell 11th and 12th. And then Kip Mitchell, Jay Safianek, David Warden, Rob Craig, Rachel Kosick, and Danny Azara is the last driver with a qualifying time. We've still got Ethan Oring, who looks like he's going to take the start of the race. Devin Peters, horrible qualifying effort from you, Devin, as you didn't even get out on track once that I saw. And then we also had Kevin Sandiego in practice earlier, and I haven't seen him out on track in qualifying. Got to wonder where in the world is Kevin Sandiego. You can see him at VIR North for this race.
You can tell from my car number, I'm just out there as a safety vehicle. You know, I'll follow around the back of the pack and pick up anyone that has any issues.
I've seen you race. I'm not sure you're qualified.
I'm quite good at getting the car stuck, so.
Very good at monitoring the gravel traps as well, but all of the drivers are going to form up on the start finish line here, so it'll be a full pace lap of VIR North. Thankfully not the longest lap that we go to all season. I'll do the pace lap and then we'll get underway. 60 minutes and a pit stop somewhere amongst all of that. As with most cars in the ChampCar Endurance Series, so it is in the ChampCar iRacing Series. No pit limiter on these cars. So what is the pit lane speed limit today? It is
45 miles
40,
an
45 miles an hour?
hour. A little quick relative to what I remember last time I was out here.
Yeah, certainly that is quite brisk. So I don't think that the pit stop loss is actually going to be that huge here. With pit lane speed like that.
It's a little tough to say because it is a long enough pit lane and it's on such a high speed part of the track. But then again, the whole lap's kind of high speed when we're doing the north course like this. So much of it's full throttle.
I mean, if you're lucky going down the straight, you'll get up to a whole 100 miles an hour in these cars. So doing 45 down the pit lane would feel completely pedestrian. I think that the difference between the pit lane speed and the car's racing speed is what's important there. But you can see Alex Albert was very, very keen to get underway. He wanted to steal your job, Devon, and become the pace vehicle. But fortunately, we've got a Porsche safety car there now rolling at the pace car speed of closer to 55.
These guys are going to have to work hard to keep up with that pace car. That Porsche gets around here a lot quicker than these Solstices do.
Yeah, I think the pace car's even got slicks on it. What's with that? Lots of horsepower, and it can very, very easily lead around a field of racing Pontiac Solstices. And I tell you what, we don't always see Alex and Justin in the matching paint schemes. I think they run different schemes on the Miata and maybe even the street stock, but they're twinned up for today in the Pontiac Solstice.
Yeah, viewers will have to look for the little numbers on the bumpers. That's probably your best indication, as otherwise those cars are looking the same. Of course, the Love Racing scheme behind them in that 888 car of Sean Saputra. And Max Lupfa, who's consistently shown pace, hasn't shown the consistency to steal more than one victory just yet, I don't think. He's rocking a Grid Life scheme, and David Marcus splitting the 5 of them up in his green paint job.
Yeah, blue, black, and green with sort of a green number 12 on the door for David Marcus. This is where they come back around into the roller coaster at a slightly different angle. We're getting ready. Down the hill they go. That's the easy part for a Pontiac Solstice. And soon our pace car will peel in. Alex Albert will decide when he puts the power down to get us underway racing. My estimates say 60 minutes, might be around 35 laps or so here. Will be a time certain 1 hour race. Pace car goes to pit lane. Alex Albert waits and green flag shows, and our field of near 20 cars roars into life past Barney at the flag stand, and Alex Albert easily converts that qualifying time into the race lead. Behind, there's a little bit more side by side because they've strung out at the front down towards turn 1. These cars are sketchy at best on cold tyres, and Sean Saputra's gone in a bit deep, found the grass. That's going to cost him a big handful of positions.
Yeah, I rejoined safely, though. That was well handled by him. One mistake, you don't want to make two. And he's lost, looks like a couple, but not too much.
Paul not letting Albert get away at the front. Everyone else mostly cleanly, it would seem.
Yeah, I just heard some contact back towards the middle of the field. We've got the 55 that looks like
Scott Grinnell's losing positions. Yeah, it's a tough time in qualifying as well.
Yep, but good job. Yeah, good job by the most of the field there. That's a tricky combination to get through the first few corners, and very busy and tight corners here at VIR. Not a lot of opportunities for passing.
We saw even in qualifying that the car's very, very sketchy when the tyres are cold on the outlap. So that's true of the start of the race here as well. Wide on the entry to roller coaster for Alex Albert. He's dipped 2 tyres in the grass, and Paul and Marcus right with him. Although Marcus had a bit of a tail out moment coming down the hill of the exit of the roller coaster. Now pushes wide, quite wide, through the hog pen. Cedes third place to Max Lupfer, but the lead is under threat between Albert and Hall.
Oh no. And Ethan O-Ring has found that outside wall on the exit of Hogpen once again. That car's bent up, and he's going to have to head back to the pits.
Watched a documentary on the Challenger disaster, and that also had damage to O-rings in it. So it's you'd hope. Never mind, that's going absolutely nowhere. Paul and Helvet are still battling for the lead, and Max Lutfer and Marcus are battling side by side over third place, the final podium position. But now Hall, from the race lead, has gone wide across the grass. They paved a little bit of the runoff there since iRacing brought their laser scanner to this facility.
Yeah, but we want this scan to stay as is because we don't want to lose the oak tree. Not featured on this layout, of course, but a worthwhile monument.
Forever in our hearts, the oak tree. It's still very, very close at the front of the field, though, now that we're starting lap 2 of the race. Not helped or hindered by whoever's in the lead, throwing it off the circuit a little bit in places. Hall and Albert have both had mistakes. Marcus has as well. Max Lutfer into third and still within 1 second of the lead. It's just 1.2 seconds for first, second, third, and fourth. Some of the guys behind are sticking close as well. So we said that this car could be great for some little battles, but it's more problems now for David Marcus, as it's been a bit of a bogey for him, the left-hander, the kink, after roller coaster.
I'm impressed by how well of a job everyone's doing keeping it back on the track, I guess. Because once you put 4 tires off there, I know it's hard to get back on. That's for sure. I've seen a lot of races end that way.
So here's an update. Sean Saputra is still 3 positions down from where he qualified. Your biggest move is in the field now, just -2 spots as he's gone and grabbed another one. Your biggest move is Max Lutfer, David Marcus, and also Rob Craig a bit deeper in the field. Didn't have a great qualifying, but he's clearly picked off a couple places from the likes of maybe O-Ring, maybe Scott Grinnell, and now Justin Hall off the circuit in the same place again. 2 laps in a row, and who else is around there?
Well, that was David. Was that Marcus again?
David Martin in the number 10. Had a bit of a problem. I think he's just kept it off the wall.
Yeah, he's probably serving a slowdown.
Sideways across the grass.
Probably serving a slowdown there. That was a tight corner for him. A little bit further down in the field, we got Rob Craig, Danny Azera, Jay Sofianek, all sort of battling together. And you mentioned Rob Craig's gained a couple positions, did that all in the last lap, but certainly hasn't shook the guys behind him. So pretty tight racing all the way through the field right now. Looks like they're going too wide. Ooh. Azara took a look up the inside there. And David Warden also had to keep an eye on his mirrors. Ooh. And Danny Azara catches those 2 tires on the inside. That's an exciting way through there.
Yeah, it's really close here with Craig and Azara and Josefianek and Scott Grinnell, and good little battle here still early, but over 13th place, and then in towards Hogpen. Rob Craig threw it in a bit deep. Someone's around. That's Kip Mitchell.
And that's a shame for him. He'd had a pretty good opening to the race there, and unfortunately has lost sort of the gap that he had built up, and then some, dropping all the way back to the end of the runners.
Did it by himself. A little bit of a squiggle as he drops down off the corner. Danny Azara has gotten in front of Rob Craig. Craig checked up a little bit more for the spun car. Oh, I think David Warden's blown a motor as well. We mentioned that the gearbox can be a little challenging in this vehicle. 5th gear, real highway cruiser gear, absolutely useless in a racing situation. 1st and 2nd gear, far too short. You're really just using 3rd and 4th in most situations, and you might have grabbed for a downshift a little bit too early there, and the smoke leaves the Pontiac motor.
Yeah, and I've been on the other side of that before. That's a real heartbreaker, but To be honest, not that surprising with this slush box. I imagine the real thing probably doesn't feel much better than my G27, but it's certainly not an easy gearbox to get around. Looking back at the front of the field here, though, we're seeing Justin Hall and Alex Albert still being closely followed by Max Lutfa in third. No one's really been able to get an advantage, though we are starting to see them spread out a little bit, about 2 car lengths at the front and another 2 behind him.
What also becomes challenging is the transition from braking in a straight line to turning into a corner like turn 1. You can very easily start locking up a brake and sliding a little bit wide. No problems for Justin Hall, as he still stays just 6/10 in front of Alex Albert, who has then about the same margin ahead of Max Lutfa. But I had the speed gun on them coming down the straight there, and from second place, Alex Albert just had 1.5 extra miles an hour going on. There is a draft just a little bit to be had from second place or from getting a slipstream down the pit straight. So not super huge, but certainly enough to just keep you behind someone if you don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, and Alex Albert, we've seen him play this game before where he gets behind early and then saves that extra bit of fuel to try and shorten up the stop. So he might already be thinking that far ahead in this race, just crossing that 9-minute threshold into the race here. But fuel mileage, always got to be concerned when we have these spec setups with the same amount of fuel in every car. If you can save a little bit extra, go a little bit further, well, you're going to have the advantage. Ooh, and just ahead of them, we were seeing another white car go flying off the track there. It looks like Ethan, still learning his way around. Luckily out here at VIR, there's plenty of runoff area, so even if you get off track, you got lots of room to slow down.
Yeah, you do have quite a few places where there's ample green grass along the left-hand side of the pit straight, for example, but we still managed to see a couple drivers find the wall in places. For example, through the infield bit, if you go up the hill and tag a bit of the grass, you can spin into the pit wall that protects the Patriot course pits there. We saw that happen in qualifying. That's one of the places where the walls are a little bit closer than they are most of the rest of the lap. Where our drivers are coming through now, you can also get in a little hot there and find the wall. I saw a BMW do that during the VIR 24 hours earlier this year. So in sim and in the real world, a place where they've got the tyre barriers there for a good reason, because people come off with not uncommon regularity.
Absolutely. And Lutfa shows what it looks like when you run a little bit wide there. If you don't catch that, that's how you stuff it into that tire wall. But it looks like things are squeezing up a little bit more at the front. I get the sense that Lutfa is not a guy that likes to stay stuck behind someone who he feels he's faster than, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and put a move on Alex. But of course, Alex, local boy, knows his way around this track. He's not going to make it easy necessarily for Max. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah, look for a little bit more experienced in some more touring car sprint racing sort of things. That doesn't mean he might not have an endurance racer brain lurking underneath there. But it was all three for the lead within a second earlier in this lap, and then stretched out a little bit after roller coaster. Now top three are just starting to drop. David Marcus and Sean Saputra in 4th and 5th, but not by a lot. They're just back there within 4 and 5 seconds of the lead and lapping in the 1-minute 44s. In fact, it's interesting, all of our top 5 lapping in the 1-minute 44s, and then you have a bit of a gulf between the top 5 and everyone else, where Foweather and Martin and Aaron Thorpe are lapping in the 47s and 45s and then 46s for Andrew Kosick.
Yeah, Lutfa got all 4 tires off on the exit of NASCAR there and lost himself a little time and then made it back up with a pretty aggressive line on the exit of left hook. So lots going on there, but Lutfa showing his characteristic wanton disregard in the pursuit of lap times.
He's been studying from the Justin Hall lines through that corner. A few of them have done it. Whoa, there goes Alex Albert wide at the top of the hill as well. Across the grass, manages to not lose it. We have to be real careful with that, and that is almost letting your leader get 1 second.
Well, and you can kind of tell how little these guys can see, especially when they're following closely, how little they can see how blind these apexes are on the way up the hill, because you've got no reference points all the way through that infield. A much better run from Alex Albert that time. Out of Hogpen, it looks like he's going to make up some ground on Justin.
Yeah, I think he is at this point, just keeping close enough. And the clutch might feel great in this car. The shift lever might feel great. I don't know, but it's just the ratios. The length of the ratios is not a particularly sporty configuration or a particularly race car configuration. You really just, third gear through some of the slower stuff. You shift up into fourth, and then fourth is a little too tall to be, punchy and racy. So you get a good run, and you can then carry that speed into fourth gear, and that really benefits you more than the guy in front who really might just bog down as they shift into fourth.
Yeah. Well, it looks to me like our leaders are all kind of taking it a bit easy at this point, just driving conservative. David Martin, on the other hand, who is running currently in 7th place, just threw it up the inside of Aaron Thorpe that last time back into turn 1. He is not taking any breaks on his way towards the front, running consistently fast laps and rapidly putting some distance between himself and Aaron. It'll be interesting to see, or him and Simon rather, it'll be interesting to see if he can make up any ground, because it already looks like he's starting to reel in Sean Saputra ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Last lap of 45.5 for Martin and a 46.1 for Saputra. Martin's clearly looking quite aggressive, especially through the roller coaster where he has a bit of a wiggle. And there's problems for Sean Saputra in front, who's off the circuit. The pressure might have gotten to him. Sean Saputra, big wiggle, exit of the roller coaster and off the track.
Oh, and I'm just going back to look at that again, and it looks to me like he just hooked that outside tire, right rear tire, on the outside of the curb and tried to stay in the throttle, and it's easy enough to spin up your tires that way and send it off, but that's cost him a lot of time as he rejoins the field. Down several positions from where he was. Looks like he's pulling in right behind Neil Hancock.
Yeah, he did miss the barriers though. But again, yeah, he just crossed the curb, hooked in one way, caught the grass on the other side, speared off the track in the other direction. Now under pressure from David Palermo. And he goes too deep into turn 1. It's got to calm down, got to settle the nerves there, because that's another mistake from Sean Putra as he just felt the pressure he went into.
And the nerves have to be firing back up at the front, because we looked away for a second, and now Alex Albert's a tenth of a second off the bumper of Justin Hall, and Max Lufa's right up there too. So the fuel save strategy might not be paying off here.
Wiggle as well for Hall coming up the hill, and it's nothing in the lead now.
It's wild, half a foot, 6 inches maybe of car placement difference there through the apex, and that was enough to give Alex a huge run. Wow. And then Max Lufa locks it up on the way in. A big wiggle there.
We're all doing it. Albert down the hill as well, so everyone looking a little less stable than earlier on. What about the run through Hogpen? Corner that requires quite a bit of commitment to just trust that the car's going to stick and you're not going to fly off as track really drops away at the apex there, and then the car will grip up as it lands. But just exactly how you jump and how you land and how it grips can matter a lot. This has really let David Marcus in 4th catch them as well. He's gone faster than all of our top 3 as they squabble amongst each other a little bit, get a little out of shape, maybe overwork their tires as well at this point.
Yeah, and I'm just noticing that the sun's starting to go down too, and now the whole track's in shadows. I wouldn't be surprised if, over the next couple of laps we start to see some faster and faster lap times popping up, because usually once it cools down around here, you tend to find a little bit of extra lap time.
Albert's currently got the fastest lap of the race at a 44.1. They're doing a lot closer to 45s. At the moment, though, at the lead. We'll see if anyone improves from that. Might have to wait till after the pit stops and a new set of tyres. Not sure. But great to see our 3 still so close.
Oh, and I don't know if Alex meant to get that close on his way through that corner, but that was some real touch and go stuff there. A breath further, and he might have net coded or even actually made contact with Justin Hall. Oh, and Alex touches the grass that time on the way and wiggles. Manages to haul it back in, though.
Yeah, exciting to watch your top 3 and 4th place catch them at the same time as well. Good run from 3rd place Max Lutfer through the hog pen there as well. It's going to put Alex Albert under pressure.
Yeah, I think he had a better run through the first half of the corner for sure, but he might have had to breathe a bit of a lift or maybe turn a little bit more because Alex Albert's not losing as much as he was. And they're all gaining on Justin Hall. This could go 3 wide. Oh, and Lufa jukes at the move. But no real go. And still nose to tail, first to third. 20 minutes into this race.
And again, David Marcus, 2 laps in a row now, the fastest driver on track in 4th place, has clawed the gap to the lead down from 4.5 seconds now to about 2.5 seconds. So as Justin Hall spends a bit too much time driving, looking in his mirrors, as Albert and Lutfer, attack each other, move around in the braking zone a little bit. Lutfer cutting the corner there. It's letting David Marcus in a little bit of clean air with a little bit tidier lines catch them.
And I wonder if Lutfer got a slowdown there. He dropped back right away. So it might have just been the car being loose. But I think that the trick with these cars is going to be keeping the tire temps in check. These are still street-tired cars, so it's not so much, wearing them out as it is overheating them that we're going to see during this race today, I think.
Normally you'd say especially the front tires, but everyone's looking a little bit more wiggly than I'd otherwise expect from this car and how much horsepower it's got. 140, 150 horsepower maybe? Well, maybe even a little bit more than that, but it just doesn't feel like it through the gearbox.
I think it's a little bit less than that because these are the non-redline editions, right? So no turbos on these.
Are the naturally aspirated ones?
Yeah, I don't know if they made those down in Australia.
Nope, these vehicles never made it to my roads.
They look kind of neat, but I don't think you missed much more than a footnote. Looking through the field, I am seeing a couple other cars close. Jay Sofianek down in 12th place and Scott Grinnell are still racing with a few car lengths between them as they head through Hogpen. Both of these guys have actually been regulars in the series, kind of consistently showing up and doing reasonably well, mid-pack sort of drivers. I know Jay has occasionally struggled with his internet connection, actually, and I've noticed him blinking a few times on the opening lap, so always a consideration.
It's Albert looking for the lead. Down the inside, up the hill on Justin Hall. Unconventional way to try to overtake. He's just going to try to keep his nose in this versus Justin Hall, but I think Hall has just managed to cover him off. That throws them backwards a little bit, and now Lutfer is looking to the inside of the roller coaster. Not going to work. It was an ambitious, maybe unconventional place to look for an overtake for Alex Albert, but if he had a run there, decided he'd make something of it, and now it puts David Marcus even closer. We might have a top 4 battle by the end of the next lap.
Yeah, that was some impressive driving all around. Coming up fast on a slow-moving car here on the front straightaway. I'm not sure who that is. 77?
Rob Craig is
That's the 11.
already on the lead lap, actually, at this point.
Might become a factor here, though, as they all come flying down into turn 1. Alex Albert takes the apex away. Justin Hall forced to take a little bit of evasive action, but he might get bottled up here. Oh, and he manages to keep the run, takes him 3 wide, and closes the door before NASCAR. And we have a new leader, Alex Albert, taking the front of the field.
Ooh, so he found the right place and the right time through the traffic there. Still got Hall and Lutfer right behind him, and David Marcus yet closer now, just 1.6 seconds away from the lead. I don't know if I'll cheer for him when he gets to the front pack here, but I'm definitely cheering for him to make it a four-way fight for the lead. Albert, and whoa, Max Lupfer's going to have a look in the same spot on Justin Hall, but Hall already knows it. It doesn't really work to go down the inside there. Now it's a four-way fight for the lead.
And Marcus has been driving the wheels off that thing. Be interesting to see if he has anything for this group once he gets caught up, or if it's all just a result of those guys battling. Ooh. And a near tragedy as he locks one up on the way into roller coaster, but gathers it back up. These things are busy under the brakes. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like they are. Moving around a little bit here and there. Again, it's that downshift into third and braking while turning in that sort of catches these cars out. They can brake well in a straight line, and they require a little bit of trail braking to make them turn, but not too much.
Well, there is something to be said for the joy of driving slow things fast, right? And these cars are the epitome of that.
Slow car fast, that's what they say. And Lupfer off the track, but a little bit further than some of the previous lines. Somehow manages to make a rejoin there. Traffic all over the place for them now. Kit Mitchell is going to try to let our top four through. So Ethan O-Ring was also almost off the track there. And did he get collected?
Well, that was exciting for sure. If I'm David Marcus, I'm waving a fist because that was an aggressive rejoin from Max Lupfer. But I think he managed to get through that without really losing any time, which is kind of impressive.
Well, it was 25 minutes in now, and it's underneath 1 second for your top four cars. So this is a very close one, as looking to the inside of the roller coaster. Max Lupfer's not going to find anything there. It's just not a hard enough braking zone on this layout of the track. On the full layout, you know, you'd carry a lot more speed down that long back straight to maybe try to outbrake someone into the roller coaster. Hogpen, though, much stronger for Lupfer, but then has nowhere to go when they all check up. He's going to try to block out David Marcus. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Lupfer, great run, and got boxed in behind.
Marcus has got him at the line.
He does.
Oh, and Marcus is looking for, at second place too and licking his chops. Ooh, and they both get in there real deep. Marcus manages to get a stop though on the apex. We'll see who gets the drag race. Alex Albert seems to be favoring the team car, giving him the draft. Oh, and Justin Hall just clears. Wow.
Super close stuff in the battle, second, third, and fourth. And I thought it was going to let Alex Albert get away, but I don't know if he's had a little mistake or he's playing games here. But it is still all on, all to play for amongst our top four cars. In a while since we had a Pontiac Solstice race, so when is the first pit stop going to need to be for these cars? Devin, you'd be in a place to tell me exactly how much fuel they started the race with.
4.3 gallons. Unfortunately, I've got no fuel data whatsoever to give you to back that up.
Nope, just needed to know the amount. So that is, all things considered, not a lot of fuel.
4.3 gallons,
4.3
sorry.
gallons.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said gallons the first time, and that number checked out, and it was around 4 or something. So I think somewhere a little bit past the halfway point is when the fuel might run out. Doesn't look like many people have made a scheduled pit stop yet at this point. David Martin's back out on track. He just pitted at the end of last lap. Took 24 seconds there or thereabouts of pit service. So maybe that's representative. We don't know yet, but it's on for the lead. So Albert's going to defend the inside down towards turn 1, I think. And then thinks better of it as Justin Hall doesn't quite have a look. Was there a little bit of a touch there? And Marcus is going to try to get in amongst it.
And Marcus sent it so hard up the inside. I had no belief that he was going to get it stopped. And now he's slamming the door on Max Lufa. We've got a much better run with a more conventional line into turn one.
Yeah, literally slamming the door in the face of Max Lufa there just to cover off his run. Not quite sure that that's all fair game. Still a little early in the race for that, maybe. No harm done to either of them, though, that you can see at this point. Simon Foweather is on the lane. Maybe he's going for a early stop to get out of traffic, get away from some of the guys he was racing against, like Aaron Thorpe and Sean Saputra and others like that.
Yeah, he did have a fair number of cars around him, including a couple of lappers, so it doesn't surprise me to see him in the pit lane.
Did he go all 4 tires or just some?
I didn't see. I'll go back and check the replay.
All right, our pit lane correspondent, Devin Peters, back down there just to check, because they might have time to change tires while the fuel is going in, but it doesn't seem like they need a whole lot of fuel. So what did it look like from where you were, Devin?
It did look like a full 4 tires for him, and it also looks like on the exit that he is right back in the middle of another pack, just overtaking Scott Grinnell and setting his sights on David Martin. So maybe not quite as clean a window as he was hoping for in the middle of some serious traffic.
It's risky to take that early pit stop.
Oh boy, and David Marcus has just shoved it up the inside again. And this time he got in so much faster. I think he's actually going to make this one stick, but that was a hell of a move. Justin Hall might have to take a few more risks on the brakes into turn one if he wants to hold off these guys, because I think both Lufa and Marcus are guys that like to brake a little bit later for their lap time, whereas Justin Hall's more of a, smooth in, smooth out, and get the run on the exit kind of guy.
Used the element of surprise really to dive down there and then managed to park it on the apex. I was worried he was going to sail in too hot. I don't think it was a particularly quick line, but with the element of surprise, he was able to park it in front of Justin Hall, grabbed second place. It's good news for Alex Albert's lead, though.
Yeah, except for Alex can see a couple lappers pulling up ahead of him. But we are cracking towards that 30-minute mark, so Alex might get the idea. Time to take a pit stop. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be alone. I think we've had 2 drivers now try to take that pit stop as we're about to come to the halfway point of the race. It's flown by because of this great battle we've still got for the top 4, and that means that maybe the little bit of fuel saving, maybe a slightly quicker pit stop could be absolutely critical for any of these guys when you've got 4 drivers so close as we approach the pit stop window in this race. Oh, that's the one car going a bit wide from Hogpen. No unsafe rejoin there. Danny Azara, I was worried might have that thing out of control and spear into one of our top 4. In the end, managed to stay clear of them and also keep his own race and car clean, get back on the track without any problems. Justin Hall tried to return the favour at David Marcus down at turn 1. Didn't work. Marcus covered it off, and they still run Alex Albert, David Marcus, Justin Hall, Max Lupfer on the road for your top 4, close as ever. In 5th place, Aaron Thorpe decides he's wanted a pit stop. So what's he going to try to do? Cover off Martin and Foweather or something?
Could be it. He might be seeing Cossack and I believe Hancock fighting for position behind him, and seeing those slower lap times, he might figure that there's something to be made up. Sean Saputra has just come past the start-finish line too, and is sort of starting to look at those guys ahead of him as people he can maybe make some ground on, running laps almost a second faster than the guys ahead of him. After that early issue, I believe he was off with all 4 early on in the race, right?
Don't remember precisely, but our top 4 are all about a second away from their best laps earlier in the race. What does sometimes happen is the front tires go away on this car. You've got to brake a little bit earlier, wait longer to pick up the throttle. So it might be just a little bit of an advantage to stop earlier if you can get a bit more grip from that. Nose to tail, Alex Albert and David Marcus, though, as Justin Hall's going to be the first from the top 4 to jump onto the lane. He's going to try to do something different than the others. This needs to be a very, very slick pit stop from him because this is a big roll of the dice.
Yeah, going out without that draft is certainly
Here goes
going to be a
Marcus
risk.
for the race lead as well. Down the inside, we know he's a late breaker. He had a good run. He's going to do the same. Try to park it on the apex. And Alex Albert can't cross back underneath. So it's all going on for the race lead at the moment, on track and on the pit lane.
Yeah, we got a great battle up at the front there, but we also got Neil Hancock and Andrew Cossack fighting for 5th and 6th place. And Andrew Cossack just dives into the pit lanes. He's doing a similar idea to what Justin Hall did there, going for that fuel stop a little bit earlier. We've got a few cars on the pit lane now, Cossack as well as Kit Mitchell, who's running 2 laps down, both taking their pit stops.
Well, I saw no tyres there for Justin Hall from what I could tell. So that's different to what some of the other guys had done. And he was a little bit quicker on pit lane than all the other pit stops we'd seen before that, like David Martin, like Simon Foweather. Let's see if that comes back to bite Justin Hall later on, or if it was strategy genius. And we'll see if anyone from the remaining top 3 try to do something else, try to cover off that, or if they keep going.
Yeah, and if I'm Alex Albert, I'm a stress case. I running between these 2 guys, a lot of really aggressive driving going on. So I wouldn't be surprised to see any one of these 3 decide that discretion is the better part of valor and to go for a pit stop. And indeed, it looks like we've got Lupfa and Marcus. Oh, and Marcus brakes really early. Lupfa tries to get alongside him, and they're too wide entering the pit lane. Oh, that was hectic on the way in.
Yeah, you can see David Marcus wasn't confident at all with where the pit lane limit starts. Max Lupfa, though, far more confident, maybe almost could have made an overtake on the entry to pit lane. That's legal in this and in Formula 1. Oh. Lupfa misses his pit box.
And that's going to be a dagger. Yeah, that'll cost him almost a second on the exit. We'll see if he decides to make it up in the fuel or not. Now Alex Albert's got some fresh air. We'll see what kind of laps he can put down without anyone breathing down his neck. And Justin Hall's just about to come across the line here, and we're going to see a fast lap, I'd expect. Oh, and out lap, so hard to say how much time he gained.
And remember, he took no new tyres either, but he has come out well ahead of David Marcus, who's only just got rolling after 26 seconds of service, 24 seconds of service for Max Lupfa, and definitely a tyre change for both of these guys.
Yeah, and I suspect that between the tire change and the lost time on pit entry, those 2 are going to end up a few seconds behind. Let's see what Alex Albert does, if he decides fresh tires are worth it or not.
Yeah, big question. We're going to see if the new tires are worth enough at the end here. I have a feeling like maybe they could be. If it only costs you an extra 4 or 5 seconds on the pit lane and you're making up a second per lap, there's still plenty of laps left where you can claw back all of that time. So I definitely think about it. As you can see, the headlights ablaze for all of our drivers now, racing into a fall sunset. What do you guys call it in Canada? Do you guys say autumn?
Oh, fall.
Okay, so
autumn.
We say all Canadians? Too. Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, if you speak French, you say autumn.
I don't. But now, if I wanted to, I'd know what to call that one season.
Uh-oh.
So maybe I do now. Thank you for teaching me.
No problem. But Alex Albert must have done a good job of saving fuel at the start of the race, or he's decided that fresh air is more important than clean tires. Either way, he's put in a 45.4 last time by and is still leading the race from the front. And Justin Hall crosses the line. No fresh tires, but a 45.2, so gains a little bit of time. And it looks like he's made about a 6-second gap back to David Marcus, and then a few more seconds back to Max Lupfa.
Yeah, I've got to miss this somewhere, but Max Lupfa's had a problem on his outlap and lost a lot of time, around about 10 seconds or so, because he came out of the pit lane right behind David Marcus, found the replay. Max Lupfa spun it on the way towards the roller coaster through the North Course section and the Patriot Circuit.
Yeah, he absolutely did, and he managed to dodge two other cars while he was getting it straightened out, but didn't lose too much time, but still lost enough time that he's going to have to put in some quick laps to get contact back with the guys in the front. Still waiting on Alex Albert to make a pit stop. We'll see if this is the one.
Also, those cold tires on the outlap, wasn't it, though? Something that Justin Hall didn't have to deal with, that Marcus Lutfer and potentially Alex Albert might have to do. Let's see.
Now let's see if Alex decides to go for those tires. It looks like 4 extra seconds, maybe 5. Probably depends if anyone got a windshield tear off as well. Alex Albert stopped at the end of the pit lane. Justin Hall's coming down through Hogpen right now.
I think Albert would have seen the gap between Hall and Marcus and maybe decided that he's not going to take tires because that hasn't happened. It's fuel only. Even quicker than Justin Hall's pit stop, Alex Albert gets rolling. I think it could still be very close here. Justin Hall is at speed, has passed the start-finish line. Is he going to come through into the lead? He's around the outside. And Justin Hall has successfully undercut Alex Albert, but there is nothing in it, and they have the same tires on.
Yeah, and the both of them have about a 3-4 second gap back to David Marcus here in third place. So with his fresh tires, will he be a factor later in this race? Hard to say.
Marcus has put in the first 1 minute 44 that we've seen in quite a while, though, with a 1 minute 44.9. So he's got a little bit of extra speed from a new set of tires, but is it enough to catch these two? And then could he get around them as well? I think that's very close on which one is, mathematically the optimal strategy there, when fuel only is just a couple seconds quicker. But those new tires could just claw back the couple extra seconds that they take.
Looking back down into the lapped cars in the field, Jay Sofianek and Scott Grinnell are still going at it real close as they're heading onto the start-finish line this time by. Those two were on different pit strategies from each other, but look like they've shook back out to be nose to tail. Sofianek getting a bit of a run. We'll see if there's anything in it into turn 1.
Poor Max Lutfer looks like he's a retirement at this point. I wonder if he's had another issue or he's just packed it in. So that's given another position to Grinnell and Sofianek.
Oh, yeah, and I've gone back and seen Max Lutfer pushing it on the exit up the hill and turned it right into that pit wall barrier that you were talking about. Stuffed it right in and broke the car.
That's a shame to hear because he was part of our great 4-way battle for the lead earlier, and now he's a retirement. Well, he's completed more than half of the race distance, though, so he will actually still be considered as a classified finisher, but it's not going to be a good result.
Yeah, sure enough, and his story of inconsistency continues. It's kind of been just the way his season's gone. He shows great pace 3/4 of the race, and then something gets in the way, and he loses a little bit of focus, and into the wall he goes. Can't say I haven't had the same experience, but it really, really hurts when you're in the car.
David Marcus found yet more speed. He found a 1 minute 44.3, more than a second faster than Justin Hall last lap. It's just 0.4 of a second between first and second on their older tires. David Marcus then just 3.8 seconds back from the lead and catching them quite a bit through some places here as well. I don't think it's a bad strategy call from David Marcus. He's catching first and second.
Yeah, and we'll see, because it sure seemed like the driver behind had an advantage going into turn 1, and if you can compound that with some fresher tires out of Hogpen, you might be able to get a real good run. And Marcus, last of the late breakers, is going to have a real shot here, you got to think. Again, looking a little lower down the field, we got Neil Hancock and Andrew Cossack nice and close together as they head through the North Course. Both of them catching up to I believe, is a lap car ahead of them. Yeah, sure enough, that's the number 9 of David Warden. So this battle could be fixing to get real close if they get held up at all.
Two guys from Club Ohio battling over 6th here. Kosick has got a wider entry to try to carry a little more speed.
Yeah.
Nope. It's the other way around, actually. Hancock had a good run to get past the traffic as well, and going to let this battle through. David Warden. It's the opposite of his surname.
Yeah, it looks like the two of them might maintain that gap they had before, but just behind them, Sean Saputra and Aaron Thorpe are going at it. Aaron Thorpe's got the inside line down the straightaway, which is actually an advantage here because it bends to the right, and he's going to be lining up a move here into turn number 1. We'll see. Yeah, he gets on the brakes a little bit later. Can he get it stopped? Looks like it won't be a problem. Saputra's trying the over-under.
Saputra near let that one go, but now he cuts back underneath, but then that becomes the outside for the next sequence of corners. I don't think Saputra's going to gain a position back like that unless he's really, really brave. And he tries to cut back underneath, but there's contact at the apex, and he hits Aaron Thorpe. Luckily, these cars are near bulletproof, best I can tell.
That's some very strong plastic. Back to the lead, though, now. Justin Hall is leading as they cross the line. Alex Albert's taking a look at the outside because Justin Hall covers off the inside. Justin Hall's taking notes from David Marcus, though, and gets a little bit of that late break himself to hold on to the position. Another lap down, and David Marcus has taken another 4/10 out of these leaders. So if I'm sitting in one of those cars, I'm waving my hand, single file, stay behind, because there's still another 15 or so minutes to go that these guys need on their side to go quickly if they don't want to be overtaken by David Marcus.
And if my calculator tells the truth, it was 10 to go in the most likely case when they cross the line. 10 laps.
And 4 to 5 tenths a second. Marcus should be right there, even if his tire advantage starts to drop off here. Ooh, and Alex Albert gets almost a look up the inside, decides to give it back to Justin. But that is some real pressure he's putting on. And we'll see. Justin Hall runs a little wide, slides it. Alex Albert's going to have the inside into roller coaster. But when Justin Hall gives him a lot of space, gives up the position.
I think Hall might have had a slowdown, and now David Marcus is right on the back of them. Hall didn't really take the greatest line on the way to roller coaster. Gives Alex Albert the lead, and David Marcus, a smell of blood in the water, right with the leaders with a newer set of tires with 15 minutes still to go. And the tires on these cars, honestly, you said it, I don't think they really wear out. What they really do on the front tires of this car is they overheat. So David Marcus had a couple of good laps after the pit stop where his new set of tires were cool and were giving him a lot more grip, a lot more performance than Albert and Hall. But I think as we get deeper into this, eventually his tires might stabilize to about where Albert and Hall's tires are once they start reaching that real high temperatures after a couple laps.
Yeah, absolutely. This is tense times at the front, though, here. We'll see what Marcus has got for them. You know, and yeah, it's very different styles, but the tire advantage really suits what David Marcus has been doing. And if I'm Justin Hall, I'm sticking to that right-hand line, and I'm not giving Marcus an inch of space up the inside because he will take it.
Yeah, he'll try. Certainly will. Now it's Albert's turn to run a little wide up the hill. Hall, has he missed a shift?
Yeah, I think so. But that's cost him a whole bunch. Oh, has he hurt the car? Still looking for that gear. Just still looking for that gear. Man, you can really tell how that gearbox will bite you.
I've been there. Have you been there?
Oh, my God, yes. I've lost races that way. Yeah, sure enough, Justin Hall might be the latest victim. Gives up a lot of time there, and it's going to be hard to claw that back with the way Marcus was putting in laps, unless Marcus starts to get into a battle with Alex Albert just out the road.
That spaces them all out. Not a good run there from Hall, who seemed almost entirely devoid of power. And I think is just getting it going. Makes Alex Albert, if anything, a little more vulnerable to David Marcus, though.
Yeah, and despite their little bit of bumper cars, both those cars appear to be clean from my end. No radiator damage or front end damage to speak of. So you can play a little bit of bumps in these cars and get away with it. We'll see if they need to use any more bumper as this race progresses. It did seem like you needed to have a fairly big pace advantage to get around the guy in front of you.
Marcus isn't shy of sending a move, though. Not close enough to do so yet, but history has shown that if he smells a chance, try and grab it with both hands.
Yeah, that's very much his MO.
It's been one of the sections of track where having a slightly pointier car that turns better is quicker. To the left and the right there, he gains yet more time on Alex Albert.
This track really shows how important the rhythm is on the way through it, though. I mean, if you get just the slightest bit behind one of these corners, by the time you get to the end of the rhythm section, or the section of S's that you're in, you're going to be so far offline, you're going to lose seconds, not just tenths. So really crucial that these guys stay focused as we come down to the last 11 or so minutes of this race.
Yep, Marcus is closing in on Alex Albert. Albert's thinking about defending. Parks himself on the regular racing line, and David Marcus goes for his trademark move down the inside of turn 1. Gets a little bit of a squeeze in return and might not be able to clear Alex Albert before the track turns to the left into NASCAR and left hook. And Albert holds onto it. But you could smell that one coming from David Marcus, but he just wasn't quite quick enough or close enough.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder, these cars still have their ABS, right? So I gotta wonder if he's using up the ABS a little bit, overheating those tires a little bit every time he tries one of those moves. He might not have too many more of those while retaining this pace advantage. And I'm keeping an eye on the battle between Andrew Kosick and Sean Saputra, which looks about the same as these leaders. I'll let you keep on calling the race up front.
Oh, as Albert goes wide, this is a way that David Marcus can get around. Quicker through this section, he's got his nose in front. Can he get clear? Can he get around? I think David Marcus has got himself into the race lead now. Taking those new tyres has worked. Against Alex Albert, who's struggling, might still be able to outfox him, might still be able to keep the pressure on. David Marcus is in the lead and clearly has the little bit of a quicker car at this point in the race. We're about to cross 10 minutes to go. David Marcus has gotten the lead.
And this battle between Kosick and Hancock went sort of as predicted. Kosick got a run down into turn 1 that time, right as Alex Albert was being overtaken by David Marcus, and Kosick put himself in front of Neil Hancock. So 6th and 7th place still not decided here on the track.
Alex Albert tried to return serve at David Marcus, but didn't have the grip to dive down the inside. He was just trying to force a mistake out of the number 12 car, but it wasn't successful. But he's still sticking with him at the moment. Maybe just trying to make Marcus use up more of the tyres.
And Alex, once in a while he seems to get a really good run through the middle of the corner and carry that speed off. Ooh, gets it real wrong.
Might have jinxed him.
Yeah, commentator's curse on that one.
So everyone's made their pit stops. Of the 18 cars that started, 17 are still running. Biggest mover. Oh, it's looking like a tie between Neil Hancock and Danny Azara. Hancock gets in front of Kosick in their little battle. It could be Hancock +5 and clear leader in positions gained.
Mm-hmm. And he and Kosick have been battling it out for a few laps, like I've sort of been chronicling. But since Kosick got ahead, Hancock seems to make up some ground on the front half of the track, but doesn't seem to have much for him once they start to go through roller coaster.
It's still in relatively close quarters, but Kosick doesn't seem greatly under pressure at the minute.
Yeah, and our leaders are actually coming up on a little bit of traffic. David Marcus coming across the number 3 car of Jay Sofianek, whose battle with David Warden seems to have calmed down after a little mistake from Warden, or maybe a little bit of lifting to get out of the way of the leaders. Either way, not a great passing opportunity here. We'll see if this brings Alex back into the picture.
Alex is going to try.
And he commits to that overtake. Always easier to be the second man.
Certainly he was already wise to what was going on, and that's, do or die for Alex Albert. He kind of had to, otherwise he was going to be in trouble. Now he's got a bit of a run towards the uphill. Didn't feel like he had the grip to go down the inside. If he waited, then David Marcus would be away and clear, and Alex Albert's chances of winning would have evaporated, gone up in smoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good aggression there, the right moment for it. But I'm worried if I'm Alex Albert, because last time by, David Marcus put in his fastest lap of the race to 44.7. So really the fastest lap of this stint at 44.7. But really pushing hard, as we see a little bit of smoke from Kip Mitchell having some trouble spinning it around. Easy enough to do through this section. Oh, and actually collects third place. That's Justin Hall, who's just had a shunt with Kip Mitchell. Looks like his car isn't too much worse for wear. Some damage on the front end for sure, but that will have taken him out of contention for the top 2 places.
Yeah, we drop back. Big hit there. Is he looking from the replay, just not quite the rejoin Justin Hall was expecting.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Kip sort of realized halfway through what was going on and tried to clear off the track, and that just squeezed Justin even further. Nowhere to go, really. And Alex senses an opportunity here with this lapper ahead of him, keeping that pressure up. Almost can't see him on the way into NASCAR that time.
The lower esters, both of them managed to pick their way through, but again, I think Albert has a slightly better go of things, as
that draft makes a difference when you're this close.
there was just hesitation, I think, from David Marks to think, could he go down the inside there? And once he committed to it, Alex Albert was able to follow. So that plays to what you said earlier.
On 5 minutes to go, Alex might just be figuring out where he's faster, where he's going to do that move on last lap. Very much a driver's track here, so lots of opportunities to make some time with a tricky move. David Marcus tried one out there, backing it into roller coaster that time.
That might be the strategy, just get a tiny bit of one of the rear tires across the grass, and it'll help you turn in. Speedway stuff.
Certainly help you turn in. I don't know if it'll help you get through the corner, if you know what I'm saying.
Might not be quick, it'll make you feel alive. It's
Yeah.
half a second first to second. Ooh, very deep, very wide. David Marcus is going to give the lead away to Alex Albert. The pressure was on, but it was almost an unforced error there. Albert wasn't that close, but Marcus just overdid it. Alex Albert's back into the lead with about 3 laps to go, under 5 minutes left on our race clock.
We'll have to see if David Marcus can make his way back up to the front there. In the meantime, we got some hot battles for the middle of the pack. 10th and 11th place, David Palermo and Scott Grinnell are glued nose to tail, heading through the infield. And of course, as I say it, Palermo gets a good run out of uphill and into the middle there. Been good battles all the way through the field, though, tonight. A little mistake here, and they get separated, and then they kind of suck right back up together, just like we've been seeing at the front.
Bit of an own goal there from Alex Albert, really, to be gifted the lead and then short order hand it away. But it's the finest of margins, and then there's no grip on the grass, so they try and attack any one of these corners. And you said 6 inches wide, and you're on a totally different trajectory, and maybe making a costly error like that.
Well, and yeah, I don't know exactly the vintage of the scan, but these curbs are even friendlier than what they have on the track now, after they upgraded to those new curbs for the FIA Level 2 that they got a few years back. But you can definitely take some liberties with these things, but if you get it wrong, they really make you pay. That's for sure.
I think the vintage of this scan is very vintage, around 2007, 2008, 2009, potentially.
Yep.
Don't know if the scan necessarily needs to be updated, but they could wave the graphics brush over it like they did for Road America, which looks very, very beautiful. And we went there earlier on the calendar in the ChampCar iRacing series.
We've got another battle brewing. David Martin ran a 45.3 last time by, and Justin Hall a 47.7. So suffering with that damage on the front of his car after that contact with Kip, and looks like third place might even be in question as David Martin's chasing him down.
You have to agree with that. Neil Hancock's our biggest mover. He's got ahead of Andrew Kosick. What's happened for Andrew Kosick? Is he running out of fuel, or has he got the same gear problems as others? Because Kosick is just sinking like a stone at the moment, well off the pace.
He ran it real wide at the second half of Hogpen there, just sort of ran over that exit curb, and all 4 tires off, cost him a bunch of momentum down the straightaway, and it's a long straightaway to keep losing time like that on. But he's also allowed Sean Saputra by in that same time, so
Albert back into the lead.
Up the field at Hancock. Oh boy, and of course we look away into one of the other battles, and Alex Albert makes an overtake.
It was at roller coaster there. David Marcus has had an error, was coming just down before Hogpen. So look at the replay, and
runs a little bit wide.
They're side by side on the live pictures now, though, because David Marcus is around the outside. Alex Albert's on the inside, and they make a little bit of contact as Marcus tries to squeeze him, and Marcus is out onto the grass again, and Alex Albert with a big lead contact in the final 2 minutes of the race.
Oh, and that's a tough one. I mean, Marcus was technically ahead, but Alex Albert was definitely overlapping. Not really any room for him to go further right onto that curb.
Wow, and meanwhile, Justin Hall has also gone and lost third place. It's all kicked off in the last couple of minutes of the race here, and they should have started the final lap of the race, I do think.
I think so, and we see Kosick here Marcus trying to get on the brakes real late and overtake Alex, but just not enough in it. And that might be the race right there.
There's been an absolute, tale of the finest margins, whether you're clear or not clear by a couple of inches has been super critical in the battle for the lead, and whether you're on the track or off the track by a couple of inches has also seen people, throw away a handful of time and potentially damage their car. But confirming it is the final lap, the checkered flag waiting for our race leader. Alex Albert comes through the hog pen, and that was so close, I think all race long here. But somehow, Alex Albert is going to prevail to notch up another win in the 2020 ChampCar iRacing series. He can't flash the headlights in this car, so we'll wiggle back and forth to show his delight. David Marcus is going to finish second. David Martin is going to round out the podium with that damage for Justin Hall.
Well, and the battle's not done all the way through. Sean Saputra just managed to put a move on Neil Hancock on the final lap here to get back up in 5th place where he started, I believe, after all this drama. Actually, no, he would have started in 4th place. Either way, an impressive effort from him to make that comeback after that early issue of his.
Right, it was Saputra off the track on lap 1. He just went a little bit wide, so he's been clawing and gnawing his way back at the spots since then. And he's going to see the checkered flag as well after 34 laps.
Yeah, Cossack was trying to make some ground there on Hancock on the last lap and ran it a little bit wide. So we'll have nice wide gaps at the end of this race, but real tight racing all the way through the top 10 throughout that race.
Pretty close between the 5 and the 55 as well for 10th place coming to the finish line here. Palermo and Grinnell. So they're really, really close. And now Palermo has got just a car length or two to help him bring this one home in the top 10 against Scott Grinnell. And they will be almost the last cars out on track yet to take the checkered flag. Definitely the last ones on the lead lap as well. So that brings us to an end from VIR North. Let's take a look at the results from round 14. Your winner was Alex Albert and David Marcus. Finished in second with David Martin rounding out the podium. Justin Hall in fourth place. Simon Foweather in fifth. Sean Saputra in sixth. Neil Hancock seventh. Andrew Cossack eighth. Aaron Thorpe in ninth. Starts a train of Club New York drivers, because then Palermo, Club New York, Scott Grinnell, Club New York, Jay Safinek, Club New York, David Warden, 13th, Club New York, and the trend gets broken with Danny Azara, 4 places gained from his grid spot to finish 14th, Rob Craig in 15th, Kip Mitchell in 15th, Ethan Oreng in 17th, and Max Lupfer of our starters, a retirement with about 14 laps down. The Rachel Cossack and Kevin San Diego didn't take the start, and Devin Peters was alongside me all race. Well, that was actually a really, really good race at VIR North, though, Devin. I mean, at what point did anyone in the lead have more than, a 1 second gap?
Yeah, I can't think of a single moment, and some different strategies playing out there, bringing everyone close towards the end. That was real good stuff. Does it look like any of these guys are going to be available for an interview here?
I think a few of them will be. Can't see our third place finisher, David Martin, regrettably. So we'll move up the next step of the podium, where we have David Marcus. What a battle back and forth between you and Alex Albert for the lead there. If you had your time again, do you think taking tires was the right strategy?
It didn't seem like it was at first when I came out of the pits, and I was about 5 seconds behind Justin and Alex, but slowly I was catching up to them, so it did seem like it was the right choice to take tires.
Got to ask, on the last lap into turn 1 there, how you saw contact between yourself and Alex Albert.
I'm trying to remember the corner now. I mean, I remember us hitting one another. It was absolutely my fault. I was, I don't know. I didn't rev match on a downshift, and it upset the car a little bit, and then he hit me, and I definitely take responsibility for that one. But I'm glad it didn't really hurt either of us for the most part.
What made it so close all race? I mean, there was a point there we were, already 20 minutes into the race, and there was only 1 second to separate first through fourth. Didn't look like there was a huge slipstream effect to keep the pack together.
No, I didn't really notice much of a draft. It just seemed like the top 3 or 4 guys, all like in qualifying, I mean, we were like a tenth apart, and it seemed like we were all able to, drive those consistent laps over and over again through the race. So it made it super close.
And what about this Pontiac Solstice? You love it or you hate it, but put on some good racing. How do you feel about it?
I just jumped in it for the first time a few days ago. I've always loved the MX-5, and I don't know, it's fine. It doesn't do anything. To me, it's a compliant car, easy to drive at the limit. Doesn't ever get away from you, so I like it.
Well, congratulations on second place, putting on a great battle. And if you find yourself rewatching the broadcast, there's many a frame of you.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, second place, David Marcus. And Devin, I'm going to grab our winner, and he's already in here. You can go and probe Alex Albert.
Hey there, Alex. Exciting race there right at the end, eh?
Yeah, wow, that was was pretty exciting coming down to the end there, side by side, taking the white flag. Glad we had one more lap to go. Man, if it would have been one lap less, I don't think it would have been going home with the trophy tonight.
And obviously, you came out the victor and the winner on that contact there at the end of the race. But how did you feel about that as it was happening?
I mean, I was over as much as I could. David, he was squeezing me tight, and I understand that. But once we ran out of room, we touched a little bit. He wiggled, and I was able to go on by. But in iRacing terms, I got no green text from that, so it was the lightest of touches. iRacing even acknowledge it to be contact. So that was pretty fun, though. Man, it was quite an interesting race with the strategy. My team, taking no tires. I assume David took tires. He seemed to be much faster there after the stops and able to run us down. So, yeah, pretty exciting.
Yeah, it sure seemed like it. And yeah, he did take tires. Was there ever a moment where you thought that your pit strategy might have been a little bit off? We did notice that Justin managed to get ahead of you after the stops there.
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say that as I watched those times get smaller, that I wasn't wishing for the tires. But I knew that we just had to make it work, is what we had. I was hopeful that David would use up all the great off of his tires and only have some good left when he got to me. And I think that's kind of what happened. It looked like, he was sliding around about as much as I was there at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And a sort of tight race all the way through. Noticed towards the end a couple little mistakes. Any fatigue or something trickling in there?
Yeah, it was a mental fatigue. That with 2 or 3 to go there, got past David. He made a mistake. I think it was down into 1. And then I kind of, almost laughed to myself and thought, well, that's the race. And 1 corner later, I make a mistake and I drop a wheel and, go off the track, end up giving the lead right back and having more of a deficit than I had just had a lap before. So we were running out of laps. I was making the situation worse. So, a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of just counting my chickens before they roosted. But it's a good deal. We were able to go ahead and salvage a race out of it and get a win.
Yeah, great job out there. Anyone you need to thank today?
I want to give a shout out to my daughter, and I also want to say how excited I am to be racing at the ChampCar race that's going to be at VIR North here in just a few weeks. I'll be subbing in as a driver for the Pinkies Out team. They're always a favorite to take home some hardware, so really excited about that. So, check us out, follow us on all the results pages, and check us out on ChampCar Live.
Thanks for coming out. Great race, man.
Hey, thanks again, all you guys do. Appreciate it.
Alex Albert, our race winner. Thank you so much. Alex, quickly before you duck out, I'm going to take this point to call it. I do believe you're mathematically unassailable as the championship leader. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, just, really glad to be in this position again this year. I was thinking about that a little bit there on the last lap. I didn't learn my lesson a few laps before that and started daydreaming again behind the wheel. My thought right now is I don't think it's possible to win 12 races this year, but it's still possible to win 11 of the 12. So that's our goal. We're going to keep coming out, trying to set fast lap times and put on a good show. So I had a lot of fun. I think it's been a great season. Had a lot of great competition from Justin and Max week to week, and then occasionally people like David showing up and really putting on a show. So can't thank ChampCar enough for what they do, putting on this and providing the prizes. Really looking forward to getting the last 2 rounds at Barber and Laguna Seca in the books, finding out who won the other race entry, and then moving on to next year and seeing if we can make the ChampCar iRacing series even bigger.
Thank you, and hopefully we won't see you scoot out on us for the remaining rounds of the championship as well. Next round in the same car at Barber.
Yeah, Barber was the site of great finish last year. One of our top 5 closest finishes. I think it might have been second or maybe third. It was door handle with me and Thomas Ellison. I expect we'll have very similar results there in a few weeks. These Solstice are great to race. They're really hard to pass because they don't have much power. You have to get a run, and it causes the cars to kind of stay together in packs. So I expect that we'll see bumper to bumper, nose to tail racing at Barber, and then I think we finish out the season at Laguna Seca Mazda. So I hope everyone can join us for the remaining rounds.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, everyone who's tuned in to our broadcast today. Congratulations once again. Go to our podium, Alex Albert, David Marcus, and David Martin. It's been David Haynes. It's been Michael Derby producing. It's been Devin Peters alongside me. Subscribe to us here at HJBC because you heard it. We're racing next, 2nd of December at Barber. Head to forum.champcar.org if you want to find all the information to race with us. Of course, we'll be broadcasting here once again for that one. Thank you for keeping us company this evening, and we'll see you again soon. Good night.